Good morning. I'm Leah Shaver, President and CEO of the National Transportation Institute. In addition to owning and operating NTI, I serve on a variety of advisory boards at fleets and nonprofit associations in the industry, and I engage with your fleet drivers as a talk radio host on SiriusXM Road Dog Trucking Radio. For 27 years, NTI has supported the trucking industry, not only by benchmarking driver and technician wages, but by helping companies implement best practices and programs that align with their highest achievable goal outcomes in order to attract and retain the best qualified workforce from pre-hire to retire. In 2019, we put together the Driver Assets and Operations panel. We prepped through February of 2020, and inevitably, like the rest of the world, we were waylaid until now. So while I'm incredibly disappointed to not be joining you in person, I'm excited to touch on our topics and wish you a great conference, doing exactly what we promote in the trucking industry: benchmarking, networking, exchanging ideas, learning from leaders. Are we taking the authoritative strategy in order to engage drivers, to join the industry, to learn, to safely deliver across North America every day? Companies have had to rapidly adapt to ever-changing conditions since March of 2020, and though we put the leaders on our panel together in 2019, their ability to adapt and engage remains true today, and we'll share more in terms of driver attraction, performance enhancement, engagement, and retention. I do want to offer a gracious and humble thank you to Gary, the TPS Advisory Board, and our very own panel team here for allowing me to beam in rather than attend in person, as I am scheduled to give birth this week to my first child, our son and future trucker. Please mark your calendars, as we'll be taking job offers in 18 years. And of course, we anticipate you'll factor in not only inflation, but also pay trends and economic factors that NTI monitors, like supply, turnover, and demand for capacity. Trucking has been plagued for years with perpetual driver supply constraints like a blue-collar labor shortage, attractive competitive jobs, retirements and physical demands, and travel demands. But some of the driver supply constraints that impacted us from Q3 2020 to Q4 of 2021, when our greatest issues were manifested, what remains have now shifted to being perpetual. Age and health issues, the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse, something that we talked about and knew was coming when we were last together in 2019, but who knew it would knock out nearly 5,000 drivers a month out of our driver pool. Changes in the consumer-driven economy has spurred job shifts and other segments surging and draining your workforce pool. Of course, the growth we've seen in trucking jobs in the last 2 years, much of that growth has been in local and LTL, not general OTR truckload. These jobs offer life balance, strong pay and benefits, and they're attractive and associated with household names and brands, challenging all of us to think of ways to promote our own company's total offerings, brand value, and proposition. You've seen those help wanted signs on every door, right? Retail and food sales continue to well outpace the growth in overall employment and trucking employment. And that's coupled with unemployment near record lows. All industries are in fierce competition for labor, which we've always mentioned as a deterrent for creating what could be or would be future potential drivers. Record growth of small fleet authority and tremendous shifting of capacity has experienced, and new drivers alike continue to seek independence, autonomy, and the best pay possible by chasing spot rates, highest per mile pay, and it's questionable now if they will even survive, as they put it, in light of shifting rates and costs. The companies we work with are already ramping up marketing and engagement campaigns to attract folks that might bring their capacity aboard and run under another fleet's authority or return to company driving. Driver count also grew, but they tend to be inexperienced. And while a good problem to have, we're desperately in need of trainers, both that meet requirements of the ELDT at schools and at fleets where they were qualified to drive. They might not otherwise be qualified or interested in enabling the bevy of students wanting to train at your company. There's also overcoming as an industry the ever-challenging task of creating and articulating career paths for truck drivers. While NTI has seen a record number of companies implementing training programs, including the best of LTL and private fleets, who historically only hired the very best drivers for hire fleets, had trained and retained for years, New entrant turnover remains a serious issue, and many students are still describing tough conditions, low pay, forced teaming, and a lack of visibility to next steps beyond training in the first year. With all of these challenges has brought a ton of opportunity and wage growth for your professional drivers, starting in Q3 of 2020 and continuing even through the first quarter of this year. When we look back over the last 27 years at NTI, it's unusual for us to see wage growth continue after so much impact in the last year, but driver supply and demand for capacity continues to challenge fleet execs and shippers. And we've seen demand and wages grow across the country, but especially in peak markets that you see on this map here. Wage strategies that might have otherwise been incorporated at mid-year and annual reviews are now being initiated due to driver supply, turnover, or increased demand. While collectively that's historically influenced wages, freight rates have always been the ultimate gatekeeper. And when it comes to contract freight, we continue to see demand from both shippers and carriers to implement attractive and well-paying jobs to ensure capacity. Aggressive companies have had to not only appear competitive, but also be competitive in order to not only attract, but retain highly skilled workers. This impacts folks most in the lead funnel after 1 and 2 years of experience, but new drivers entering expect rapid and frequent wage growth. So it's significant that wages for a solo driver with a mere 1 year of experience expanded within that band as much as 11 cents at the top end year over year from Q2 of 21 to Q2 of 22. All of this to say, auditing and updating winning strategies to engage from pre-hire to retire has never been more vital at your company. Retention is the new recruiting, and we have 4 generations of folks working in your labor force right now. They all engage, hear, communicate, and operate differently. So look at it from promoting trucking in your community to engaging social content that appeals to both internal and potential candidates, expecting all levels of your organization to support drivers, pairing compliance and human resources to combat the health issues that plague your aging and your sedentary drivers, making meaningful pay adjustments that answer to driver pain points while remaining competitive in the market, and then boosting performance with KPI programs. There's so much to be done and shared. So with that, I leave it to Tim, Mike, and Karen to drive the discussion and Q&A on our driver session. Have a wonderful, engaging conference, and until we meet again at events this summer, please stay safe and well.